Hello and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Kier, and joining me today is my co-host Austin Davidson.
Heyo.
It has been a long time since Austin and I have been able to do an episode. It's been about almost 3.5 weeks since we last did an episode. Luckily, it's been a pretty dead part of the season because we've been pretty busy ourselves. What have you been up to, Austin?
Just working, really, man. That's it. It's been a pretty long summer for work. That's all I've been doing. How about you?
It's pretty much the same as is the case with college students. Unfortunately, Austin and I have pretty different schedules as far as when we work. Austin works almost exclusive nights, am I not mistaken?
Yep,
Exclusive.
that's correct.
And I work pretty much every morning about 6 days a week. So it's pretty tough because I have to be going to bed early and he usually doesn't get off till late. So we haven't been able to connect on an episode in a while. So we've been lucky that it's been during a quiet time of the season. But all that being said, there's been quite a bit of news coming up. First and foremost, NFL training camps have begun today. I think 4 teams are in session starting today, Austin.
Oh, yeah, that's correct. It's the Saints, the Bears, the Ravens, and the Jaguars.
Which means the other 28 teams will be shortly behind. I know the Steelers begin their training camp in about a week. I think it's a little less now.
It's the 27th. It's a little more. It's 8 days.
8 days from now, okay. So training camp is a little more than a week away from us right now. And the major talking point has obviously been the status of Le'Veon Bell and his long-term contract talks with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The deadline to complete the extension was yesterday, and a deal did not get done. So that means Bell will currently he doesn't have to play at all. He hasn't signed the franchise tag tender, but if he's going to play, he has to sign that. And assuming he does, he will be making $12.12 million this season under the tag, and then will be facing free agency or potentially another franchise tag situation. So, quite an interesting situation. We don't know much about the information of the deal that was proposed by the Steelers, but thanks to the information Austin gathered, it looks like the base deal was supposed to be around $42 million over 3 years, with $30 million in the first 2 years, which is about an average of $12 million. I think I also heard myself, I think it was like 5 years, 60 or 50 something million.
Yeah, that was the full contract.
Yeah, so that contract was obviously front loaded. So a deal hasn't been done. So what are your opinions on the deal and like looking at it from both sides? What are your thoughts on both sides of this long debate?
Well, what Bell wants to do is reset the running back market. He's voiced it afterwards in his little, it wasn't a press conference, it was just what he was saying about it, is that he thinks that the running back position is more important. He said that they have to do more. They have to block. They have to rush. They have to have hands, which that's pretty much exclusive to him. It's not like other running backs can't pass catch. Like, there's other good ones, but he's one of the best at it. It's not like all running backs do that. So when he said that, I was kind of thinking to myself, that's really only what he does. But back onto the topic, he didn't sign the deal, and if he did, he would have reset the running back market. It would have been over $5 million more than what the next running back is being paid per year, which is LaShawn McCoy at $8 million per year. And that's the average. I think he's getting paid $6 million this next year. So, Bell probably saw AB's contract sitting at $17 million a year, and since Bell is the best player at his position too, he probably wanted that kind of money. And what's bad about that is, with AB, it's like you can argue who the best wide receiver is. A lot of people do think it's Julio Jones. With Bell, I think it's a little more clear-cut that Bell is actually the best running back in the game. I mean, there's still going to be people who argue Ezekiel Elliott and David Johnson, but I feel like he has more length in that he's the better running back. So that's what hurts it. He probably knows that too, and that's why he wants AB kind of money. But he obviously wanted to reset it and get the AB type of money. That was his goal. But what he's going to have to wait for is David Johnson's deal to run up or Ezekiel Elliott's rookie deals, so another team resets the market so he can get paid above them. Personally, when I first saw it didn't happen, I blamed the Steelers, the organization, for not offering enough. But after seeing what they offered, I really think Bell got a little too greedy here. He would have been the highest paid back and would have reset the market, but that wasn't good enough. What did you think about the deal?
Well, the end of May, so about 2 months ago, I was starting to get it into my head that a deal probably wasn't going to get done for whatever reason, and then obviously the closer we got, the more pessimistic I got. Um, I'll tell you right now, I think Bell is a fantastic player, and I think he's a Hall of Fame type talent when it comes to what he can do on the field. And I completely understand what he's trying to do, and it's definitely his right to try to make as much money as he can. Um, but I think the Steelers, from their point of view, I think they probably did the right thing, and they offered him a decent amount of money, but at the same time, they didn't offer too much and get locked into a deal where it seems inevitable that he's not going to play out the entire contract or he's not going to ever live up to it. So, of course, I'm disappointed a deal didn't get done, but when you look at everything under a microscope, I kind of understand why a deal didn't get done. Uh, Bell's 25 years old, and at the end of this franchise tag, he'll be 26. Well, he'll be going into his age 26 season, and we all know what happens to the drop off of running backs after I think it's age 29, something like that, is where they usually start falling off. And especially how much he touches the ball and how often he's had injuries, I can't blame him for wanting to make as much money as he can. Now, that being said, I think how much money he was asking probably was a little too much considering how he would be reestablishing the market, but over $5 million a year on average more than the second highest played running back in LaShawn McCoy. In comparison to Antonio Brown, I believe the second highest paid receiver is AJ Green, if I'm not mistaken, but I think that's only $2 million a year more than Green. So he was resetting the market by not by a very large amount, where Bell would be completely shaking up the running back market, and I think that would have definitely hurt the Steelers in the long run. But uh, let's look a little bit further into this deal. What do you think the biggest reason that this deal did not get done? What do you think was the biggest reason this deal did not get done? Did it have something to do with incentives? Do you think it had to do with the length of the deal? What do you think it was?
I think it was the guarantees. I'm pretty sure the guarantees were the problem. I feel like I saw a few people were saying the rumors were the guarantees. That's like my only guess, because I feel like even though it wasn't like that big 17 million contract, it was still came out to about like 13 and change a year, or almost 14 million a year. So I feel like that would have been a really good price to have him. I think he didn't like the guarantees. I'm pretty sure the Steelers lowballed him for the guarantees, as they should have. It was the right for their business when they look at him and see that he's been injured and suspended twice. It's just how I think that's what killed it. What do you think for you?
Now, when you say guarantees, are you talking about guaranteed money?
Guaranteed money, yes.
Yeah, that. I agree with you completely. I thought it's possible the average yearly value, but usually when with most NFL contract disputes, it's all about the guaranteed money. The Steelers, I've learned, historically offered almost all of the guaranteed money in the contracts in the signing bonuses, excluding Ben Roethlisberger. So that was something really interesting to me, because the player would get all of their guaranteed money up front, and everything else is obviously not guaranteed, which that seems like a very shrewd way of dealing with business, but also very smart if they've been able to get that many players to sort of accept that. But with Bell's injury history and the nature of the running back position, that being the case, it doesn't really surprise me that he wanted some sort of financial security beyond this upcoming year. It wouldn't really make that much of a difference for him if he's guaranteed all the money up front, all the guaranteed money in the signing bonus, but then say he has some catastrophic knee injury after, like, in his second or third year on the contract, and all of a sudden he's not making any more money the rest of the times. And like we already mentioned with his injury history, it's a possibility. So I can't blame him for not wanting guaranteed money, perhaps more spread out through the length of the contract. But going forward, the Steelers aren't going to be able to negotiate with Bell until after this upcoming season. So that leaves the Steelers and Bell with two options as far as, well, I guess three, but as far as getting Bell to stay in Pittsburgh, there are two options. There's A, getting a long term contract done after the season, or applying the franchise tag to him a second year in a row. So let's start with the long term contract. Do you think this is going to get done after the season?
No, for the exact reason I said. The Steelers are not going to give him a blockbuster deal. That's like $60 million a year. Not until another team does. More than likely, the Steelers will just franchise tag Bell again, or have to wait, and will wait until the end of the 2018 season when David Johnson becomes a free agent and the Cardinals have to pay him instead. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you completely. Although you don't really want to be sinking $14 million, which is about what it would be next year on the franchise tag, I think it just makes a ton more sense for the Steelers to do that. And the thing that sucks for Bell is there's nothing he can do about it. If he gets the franchise tag put on him, I mean, he could not play, but what is he? He's not going to make any money. So he would pretty much have to play under the franchise tag again. So, and I mean, to be fair for him, $14 million is a lot of money. So that's pretty nice. But no, I don't. I'm starting to think a long term deal is probably not going to happen at all here. He wants a lot of money, as he should, and the Steelers are probably not going to pay him as much as he wants, as they should too. It's unfortunate, but that's the nature of free agency in the NFL. Um, so for that reason, those reasons, I think that Bell's probably going to get the franchise tag one more year, and then beyond that point, we'll have to see what happens after that. So now, with training camp starting, Bell doesn't need to show up to training camp. So do you think he's going to hold out from training camp? Is there really a point to him doing this since the Steelers can't, like, even if they wanted to negotiate, their hands are tied? So is there really a point for him to do it? If he's going to hold out, which there's a chance he does, how long is he going to do it? And, like I said, does it really matter in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah, I think he has no obligation to be there, and to be honest, I really am okay with it. Rather keep him healthy than anything. That's not going to be the reason he's doing it, but if he wants to not go to training camp, I really wouldn't mind, even though it's meant to be a bad thing in his case. It's fine. It's not even like he would get many reps anyway. He's a proven back, probably the best anyway. I'd prefer him to actually just stay away, but when I think he's going to come back is probably the fourth preseason game where he'll probably get like a few reps in and just come back. That's about it. What do you think?
It's pretty much the same for me. I think he wants to kind of send a message saying that he's frustrated, and obviously he doesn't want to put his body in harm's way without a long-term deal. This really isn't going to be an issue, though. He doesn't get many, I guess, tough carries in practice, and I think last year another show was talking about this. I think it was something he's got like a total of like 30 touches or carries during the course of training camp all of last year. So the only real thing that he would miss by not being here is like being with the team, and I think he doesn't really want to be with them right now because all they would probably be talking to him about, even if they're joking around, is like, oh, you should have taken less money so we could have a better chance at winning the Super Bowl, whatever. Whether or not that's true, I think he doesn't want to have to deal with it, and I have a feeling he's probably going to return sometime around the latter portion of the preseason. I think it's going to be the third preseason game. Traditionally, the starters rest in the fourth preseason game, and last year that was the only game I think Bell played in and got snaps. So I imagine he'll probably play one or two drives, get like somewhere between 5 and 10 touches or carries, and I think it's going to be a pretty seamless transition. The plus side of being able of staying away is that he will continue to train. It's not like he's just going to sit out there and eat cheeseburgers playing Madden while the rest of the team's practicing. He'll be ready to go when it comes down to it. So no, I don't really think this is going to be a big deal, even though the media is probably going to make this a big deal. So moving on to we talked a little bit about the franchise tag. So right around $14 to $15 million. How likely, if you're going to put a percentage on this, do you think this happens?
We're probably sitting at a 75 to 80% chance at the moment, barring any injuries or suspensions. If he gets injured this year, it probably drops down to 55 to 60%. And if there's a suspension, you could probably bet his chances fall down close to 25%, if not less. The Steelers wanted to pay him about that much a year, so he just didn't accept it for the long term. So that honestly, the $14 to $15 million a year for the franchise tag wouldn't be too bad. I think they were trying to get it like at about 14, so we'll see. What do you think?
I think you covered it pretty well. It's about how I feel too. If he's getting himself suspended again, I think it's pretty much a certainty that he wouldn't be coming back. An injury, who knows what happens? That could damage his value on the market, and all of a sudden he could become affordable for the Steelers. So you can never really tell with those kinds of things. But I'd say, assuming he plays a full schedule healthy without any problems, he'll probably get the franchise tag, would be my educated guess. So, assuming the Steelers decide to let Bell walk after this upcoming season, just tell me a couple teams you could see him playing for, or teams that he would want to play for.
Well, a team that hasn't had a good running back in years in the cap space to give a big, juicy contract would be the Lions. I really think the Lions need to get a star running back, as they've had to rely on Matt Stafford for everything since he's been there. Plus, Le'Veon was drafted out of Michigan State, so it'd almost be like a coming home for him to go to Detroit. He's not seen. Matt Stafford has not seen a good running back in his time with the Lions. It's just not good that Matt Stafford has been put under all this pressure with no relief. He's not seen a good running back since he's been there. Now, moving on, then another team, if Le'Veon wanted to join a contender, the Giants would be a good team for him. The Giants are loaded up with a powerful offense that is just missing an elite running back. Their starter, I believe, to be Paul Perkins, but really there's no clear-cut starter. So I think Le'Veon could go there and turn the offense into a top 3 offense quite easily with Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, Brandon Marshall, new tight end Evan Ingram, and it would be a pretty disgusting offense. But and he would put the Giants in a good spot to make a strong run through the playoffs. What do you think?
Well, before I get to my teams, another thing about Matthew Stafford and the Lions, he's typically has the most passing attempts in the league every year. So just a little more of an emphasis on how little help they've gotten from their ground game, whether it's been not calling enough players or just simply not being good enough at it. So I agree with you. That's definitely a possibility. I think 2-3 teams that he could be interested in could be first. I'm just going to say Miami because it feels like he's always spending his free time down there, which doesn't really mean much. He could just like hanging out there. I mean, it'd probably be pretty nice to hang out in Miami in your free time. But outside of that, my more educated guesses would be the Philadelphia Eagles and Indianapolis Colts. The main reasons being that the Colts and Eagles have running backs with expiring contracts after this year. The Eagles have, I believe, Darren Sproles and what's his name? Ryan Matthews. That's his name.
They signed LeGarrette Blount in the free off season.
How long?
2 years. So I mean, it's still a short contract, but I mean, it'd be reuniting Blount and Bell.
Do you think Blount would be kind of pandering for him to come back? I wouldn't put that out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, they were pretty close friends. I mean, they got in trouble together, so.
Yeah. So maybe if Bell, maybe we'll see just how far Bell has or hasn't come if they end up getting reunited. But in any case, that team is an up and coming team. They have a young quarterback in Carson Wentz, and I believe they have the cap space for him too. So that's something to look out for. Indianapolis would be a team that I think Bell would like to go to ideally. They have a really good quarterback and not too much else right now. I don't know where they'll be in a year, but the other thing to remember with the Colts is they were in the AFC Championship game just a few years ago. Imagine what Andrew Luck could do with a player like Bell in the backfield. The Colts honestly, they really haven't had that good of a running back since Edgerrin James back in 2005. So we're coming up on almost 15 years since they had a Pro Bowl type running back. I mean, in the Super Bowl 41, Dominic Rhodes ran for 100 yards, and he didn't even start the game. So the Colts typically haven't been a team that's run the ball much. And they don't even have to. Bell could just be another receiver for them. So I think that would be a situation that would work out well for all parties, assuming the Colts don't, completely implode. Poor Andrew Luck. But moving on, former Steelers cornerback Ike Taylor has been brought on to work as a scouting intern. Is it just for training camp or is it the whole season?
It's the whole season. He's going to be helping in the scouting department, looking at colleges, trying to get the next year's rookies out of the 2018 class. So I'm really excited because I love Ike Taylor, and I'm glad the Steelers brought him in to work with the staff. So
I always thought Ike Taylor was one of the most underrated players on the Steelers defenses of the past 15 years. I honestly think if Ike Taylor had hands, he might be he would be a multiple Pro Bowler, perhaps a Hall of Fame type player. I mean, he would usually be put on the team's best receiver, and yeah, you could talk about how great the linebackers or linemen were on those defenses, but he always did his job, and everyone's going to remember the tough game he had against Larry Fitzgerald in Super Bowl 43, but nobody was stopping Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, he had one catch through 3/4 of that game, so I mean, yeah, he had a tough time overall in the stat department, but he did a pretty good job when nobody else was slowing him down. And on top of that, he also made a pretty big, often overlooked interception in Super Bowl 40 that started the process of putting that game away. So I'm very happy to see that he'll be on as a scouting intern. And I always, like I said, I always loved him. I don't want to see him teaching players how to catch because that's something he just could never do. So moving on, now the training camp is just over a week away. Give me a couple of picks, in your opinion, for who the camp darling is going to be and who, I guess, the camp failure will be, if you will.
All right, so I'll start with the darlings. I'm hoping for Keon Adams to stay impressive. I'm hoping this late-round pick fights for a spot on the roster and surprises everybody. From what I heard, he's already impressed Joey Porter, and that's a good start, so I hope to hear some more good things once camp starts. I think he can impress. Then my second one is Juju Smith-Schuster. I really think Eli Rogers and Sammy Coates are going to have a fight on their hands for that number 3 receiver spot. Obviously, Smith-Schuster was drafted pretty high, and it was mostly because of his usefulness in the red zone. I think he's going to perform very well in camp and make it hard for who the Steelers should start at wide receiver 3 because of it. So who are your two darlings?
Well, my first darling is quarterback Joshua Dobbs. Now, this is interesting. I heard someone say this, and it was kind of what I was thinking, but this isn't a camp darling for the starting quarterback position. I don't think anybody thinks he's going to be the starter right away, or if ever. But when the crowd sees him either in a preseason game or in a training camp practice, when the pressure comes up the middle and he scrambles, picks up a first down, or throws the ball downfield, makes a nice completion. On a play that typically would be a sack for Landry Jones, I think the fans are going to go absolutely nuts and say, oh, Dobbs is so much better than Landry Jones. And they're going to want Landry Jones, castrated, hung, and executed for not being good enough. And they're going to be like, oh, the Josh Dobbs, era is underway. But the fact of the matter is Dobbs is probably going to wow some people this year. That's the fact when it comes to his natural athleticism and his big arm. But the thing to remember is that he is pretty raw. He has a lot of things to work on going into this year. And even though I think he's going to impress some people, it's important for people to remember that Jones knows the Steelers system, and it's going to take time for Dobbs, as smart as he is, to learn the system. So for this year, at least, Jones is definitely the favorite to be the number 2 quarterback. My second camp darling, I'm not as convinced with this one, as cornerback Brian Allen, the 5th-round pick out of Utah. We know that he's a great physical athlete. He's that tall Steelers mold type cornerback that they love. Kind of like Ike Taylor, if you want to think of someone like that. You see the plays. I think he had a one-handed interception in college, and I think you're going to see something like that in training camp and probably in the preseason, especially when you factor in that they're going to be playing some poor competition late in games. So I expect Allen to be a guy that's going to make a couple big plays, and the fans are going to be clamoring for him to make the final roster. But in all likelihood, he's probably not ready to be on the 53-man roster. So Now that we've talked about who we think is going to impress the fans in training camp, who do you think is going to disappoint the fans?
I'm not sure this is quite disappointing, but I listed him as a failure anyway. My first one is Senquez Golson. He's not made it past camp for 2 years now, and at this point, I don't think there's anything he can do to really save his roster spot with all the new secondary players coming in, like Cody Sensabaugh, Brian Allen, and Cameron Sutton. So it's not so much as him being a failure, but more of him just not being able to do enough. So moving on to the second one, it's going to be Justin Hunter. He is my second failure, and it's because he's bad. It's just simple as that. I don't know why Steelers brought him in. It never made sense to me. It was not a position that needed addressing ever. And then they still decided to go after wide receiver in the second round of the draft. So there's a reason he's been on so many teams in the past 2 years. It's not going to change. I have no clue what they're expecting, but I'm expecting to do very poorly in camp. So who are your failures?
Yeah. Just a quick comment on yours. Justin Hunter, I honestly think he was just there in case Martavis Bryant was not reinstated. That's all not especially with the drafting of Juju Smith-Schuster. I think we know for sure that that's all he was. So I think he'll be looking for work pretty soon. And then as far as Golson goes, I just wanted to say I think it'd be actually impressive for him, if only because he's only gotten through 2 training camp practices in 2 years. So let's see if he can actually get through 3. My failures, if you will, I'll start with Fazan Odom, I believe is how you pronounce it, the 6'8" tight end out of Fordham. And I'll be honest with you, this isn't fair, but because he's so tall, everyone's gonna see him on the field and be like, "Wow, this guy is huge. He's got to be, this. He's gonna be this megastar. He's gonna be, Rob Gronkowski. He's gonna be this superstar player at some point." But there's a reason he wasn't drafted, and he's not ready for NFL competition. And when he struggles with blocking, when he struggles with getting pushed off his routes, and maybe not being completely fine-tuned when it comes to his catching mechanics, don't be too disappointed and upset with him, because just remember, he went to a small school, he didn't face great competition, and even though he's a big tall guy, he's not ready for the NFL. That's the fact. So I think people are going to look at him and have high expectations, but he's not going to live up to them. My second camp failure would be William Gay. And this has more to do with the rookies at the position than anything else. But because I'm assuming he's probably not going to practice as much, the veterans typically don't compared to the rookies. I think that, coupled with the fact that he's starting to slow down, and everyone remembers just how Julian Edelman schooled him in the AFC Championship game, I think the fans are going to be overanalyzing his mistakes, and they're going to be ready to jump on him. So that's something that I think fans need to look out for, and I think he'll make the roster, but there's a chance, for the first time, I think since he was a rookie, that there's really a chance that he might not make this team. So time will tell on that front. So that's about all we have for the Steelers news today. Austin, you did most of the research here. You want to fire off some quick hitters for the NFL?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, in NFL news, the Panthers fired their GM Dave Gettleman and just brought back their old GM Matt Hurney this morning to take his role. Do you think this was a smart decision to make this late?
It's definitely interesting, because I remember we talked about in the last episode how the Chiefs firing their GM at that time was really strange, and that seemed late. And now we're a week away from training camp, and they're removing their old GM, or their current GM for their old GM. It's kind of bizarre, but it also signals to me that it's kind of it was kind of something that needed to happen, and it was probably kind of something where it was like, oh, this is the last straw kind of thing. Is it a smart decision? Probably. If they're having to make this decision now, it's probably something they couldn't have lasted with the whole season, and especially based on what former players and other people around the league have been saying, it sounds like he wasn't very popular on the team. So it was probably a smart idea. As far as how well the team will perform, that'll be something we'll have to wait with time. What about you, Austin? What do you think?
Based on what all other former Panthers said and current Panthers, yeah, it was. Former Panthers and current took to Twitter, including DeAngelo Williams, to voice their disdain for the guy. For Williams, his firing was enough for him to say he would play for the Panthers again, after just the other week, he said that they were part of the 4 teams he would never play for. Gettleman was blamed for a lot of problems with deals not working out, like Josh Norman's deal and Thomas Davis's. So overall, it was better late than never. It was a good decision. Then we already kind of went over this, but training camp began for the Ravens, Saints, Jaguars, and Bears. And for fun, we're just gonna rank these teams. Out of these teams, which team is gonna have the best season? Do you think?
Real quickly, if I may interject here, Austin, I've just got a update from Bleacher Report that the Chargers' first-round pick wide receiver Mike Williams might need season-ending back surgery on a herniated disc.
Wow.
Yeah, according to Adam Schefter. According to Adam Schefter of ESPN. So I want to talk about that real quick. It's poor Chargers. They're playing in LA starting this year, right?
I am actually not sure on that.
Well, in any case, that team's going through a lot right now, and they don't have much to hang their hats on. And poor Phillip Rivers is not going to have his number 1 draft pick most likely. So that's a big loss for them. And they were already in a pretty stacked division, a division that had some favorites in the AFC with the Raiders and perennial contenders in the Chiefs and Broncos. So they have they had their work cut out for them already, and it looks like it's just gotten a lot harder, Austin.
Oh yeah, that's not good at all. When I saw Mike Williams drafted, I thought the Chargers could have addressed another position, but then I kind of thought about it, and it was like with Keenan Allen constantly going down at the beginning of every year, it was a good pick. But now this sucks because now if they lose Keenan Allen again, they're going to be down to Inman again, and I can't even remember the other people's name. Travis Benjamin's still there, isn't he? Travis Benjamin too. Benjamin isn't bad. It's just they want Keenan Allen out there. They do, and Mike Williams would have helped because with injuries he could have stepped in, but just not good for them at all.
Trying times for that franchise for sure.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, to answer your previous question, you asked me. Of the Ravens, Saints, Bears, and Jaguars, who's going to have the best season. If going by best season, meaning the most wins, then I believe that's pretty easily the Ravens. You look at those 4 teams, starting with the Bears, that team I think is a mess, even with Mitch Trubisky, their new quarterback. The Jaguars, I don't really know what's up with them. I thought they were going to make that jump last year, and they didn't. They actually regressed. So I don't know what's going on there. The Saints, yeah, they have Drew Brees, but he's starting to slow down. And look, I'm not sold on that defense. Time will have to tell. But the Ravens, we already know they have a pretty good defense, and now they have a little bit of a better offense now that they've signed Jeremy Maclin. So they already have a Super Bowl winning quarterback too in Joe Flacco. They always give the Steelers, a run for their money, and they usually have their way with the Bengals. So if we're talking about the most complete team, probably the best overall team, I think that's Baltimore. What about you, Austin?
For me, this is actually a hard one. The Bears were out of this question immediately, but the other 3 are all in similar situations where it looks like they all have a team that's better than them in their division. But overall, I think record-wise, the Ravens will probably have the best season, agreeing with you. But the Jaguars probably will have a better chance of winning their division. Sadly, the Saints are in a weird spot where they have the NFC champions in their division as well as the rising Buccaneers. I just don't think they will be able to compete in their hard division. But fun fact, I believe since it was 2002, the NFC South has had a different division winner since 2002. It's been different every year. They've not had a repeat winner since 2001. I thought that was kind of cool. So, I mean, they have a chance if that continues, since it means Falcons won't go, and it'll be either the Bucs, Saints, or Panthers.
Wow, that's very interesting. For those who don't know, the NFL divisions were realigned when the Houston Texans were brought into the league in 2002. So that means since division realignment, they haven't had a repeat division champion. That has to be the only division where that's the case.
Oh, yeah. It was a whole chart. I forget who did it, but someone did a chart of every winner, and they were the only one where that was the case.
Very interesting.
But moving right along, we have just kind of short news. A short suspension seems to be looming for Cowboys star running back Ezekiel Elliott for the domestic abuse allegations that happened before his draft, I believe. but especially now since he's been accused of punching some guy in the face and breaking his nose. However, it has not been confirmed to be him yet for the punch, but the NFL is investigating. I'm pretty sure that it was him. It looks like the fingers are being pointed at him, so suspension will be looming for him. Do you have anything to say about that?
No, it's another case where you hope that a young player, kind of like Ben Roethlisberger when he was getting in trouble as a young player in his NFL career, you kind of hope that a player this talented can hopefully turn it around, because if you make too many mistakes like these, and assuming he did punch this guy, that'd be two pretty bad mistakes in a row. You wonder how many more of those you can go through before the rest of the league kind of doesn't want this kind of guy on their team. So disappointing, but here's hoping that he didn't do it, actually. So
knowing the Cowboys, though, they wouldn't even care. They still have Randy Gregory on their roster. I don't think they really care about bad guys on their team. But moving along, the next piece of news is that number 2 overall pick, Mitchell Trubisky, signed his deal today with the Bears. It's right as they started their camp, as we said, so that's good for them. Do you have anything to say about that?
Not too much. I mean, I'll be interested to see what he can do, considering there isn't much of a team around him, but it's good that he's getting into camp and getting started on the work with the new season. So, we don't watch the Bears. They're not in the same conference as the Steelers, but I'll be interested to see what he does, since he was the first quarterback taken in the draft this year.
I'm excited too. He's going to be thrown to Marcus Ween. Okay, but moving along, I'm going to combine these two because they're both arrests. Texans rookie Deontay Foreman was arrested for marijuana possession as well as unlawful carrying of a weapon. And Jaguars defensive end Dante Fowler Jr. was arrested for simple battery and criminal mischief. It's been a good month for arrests and suspensions and stuff, apparently. Do you have anything to say about these?
Yeah, it's just kind of strange that it's happening now at this point in the off season, because usually you think these guys are getting ready to get ready for camp, and they're all getting their heads on straight, and they're getting ready to be with the team, and then this kind of happens. I kind of thought, I don't know, maybe there isn't really a timetable for when this stuff kind of happens, because it does happen every offseason, so I don't know, maybe it's just a strange spike as far as how often these are happening, and let's hope that that's all it is.
Yeah. And there's one last piece of news. It's not really even news, it's just a little interesting tidbit. As expected, the number 1 rookie jersey sales as of right now is Jameis Conner, and he is actually the number 2 jersey sales in general, only behind Tom Brady. And I've said it many times. I accuse this pick of being a business pick, and I mean it's not how it's turning out, but it's happening exactly what I thought. His jersey sales are number 1 for rookie and number 2 across all players. So I thought that was an interesting little tidbit.
Yeah, my mom was texting me about that not long ago, actually. So I'm kind of surprised. I mean, I expected him to be pretty high in jersey sales for rookies. I didn't expect it for all players to be second amongst all players. So that was definitely surprising, but I don't think it's going to really matter that much, honestly. He hasn't played at all yet, actually, when you think about it, because he wasn't even in minicamp because he still had that, was it a hamstring injury?
I believe so.
So, I don't know. We'll see.
Sorry.
No, go right ahead.
It's sort of like the Michael Sam situation, except, I mean, it's obviously different, but Michael Sam's jersey was the number 1 selling jersey when he was drafted for rookies, and he didn't even ever see playing time. He got cut before he could, so...
Wow.
I mean,
who has a Michael Sam jersey?
I don't know. I want to know, but of that year, he was the number 1 selling jersey because obviously he was the first openly gay NFL player to be drafted.
You should look that up because I'm curious right now. I also heard that there's a possibility that if DeAngelo Williams is still unsigned and if Le'Veon Bell either gets suspended or injured, that they'd rather bring in Williams before they have Connor take on the lead role, which I thought is interesting, but also probably the right move to make. I'm still kind of surprised they didn't sign Williams. He's a very popular guy in the locker room, and I still thought he had some tread left on the tires. And I know for sure he wants to win, even if he's even if he's out there wrestling and almost getting himself killed. But that's a topic for another time.
Are you ready to wrap this up?
Yeah. Did you look it up?
Oh, no. Oh, I apologize.
No, it's fine. Do you want to do that? You don't have to. You could just.
Yeah, I got it. Michael Sam.
Yeah, that's the other thing. We wanted to apologize for not really being active on our Twitter account that much. Like I said, we've both been pretty busy, and there hasn't been too much to talk about. But yeah, here is Adam Schefter 24 minutes ago. Mike Williams might need season-ending back surgery. That really sucks.
That's awful. It turns out he wasn't the number one. He was top 10. I think. Let's see. It says he sat here at number 4. He was number 4. And
Behind
it's funny
who?
Sorry. What were you saying?
Behind who?
It looks like Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, so he was still first amongst rookies.
Oh yeah. Yep. My bad. And then number 2 was Johnny Manziel.
Wow, so he had more jersey sales than Johnny Manziel. Very interesting.
Yeah, I find that funny still. I mean, he's obviously not in the NFL anymore. I'm pretty sure he was on the Avalanche in the Canada League for a little while. Or I can't remember the exact team. It was something like that, the Avalanche or something. He was playing there. He got cut from there too.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
Well, yeah, if you're all set, Austin, I'm all good to go.
Yep, I'm good.
Alrighty, well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions about the show or any questions you want us to answer on our show, please feel free to email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on Twitter, stronger_steel. Check us out there for news and updates about our episodes. We'll be tweeting a little more now that the season's going to be getting underway soon. Same thing with Facebook, at Stronger Than Steel Podcast. We'll be posting mostly scoring updates there. And check out our new Instagram page. I believe just Stronger Than Steel Podcast. I'm doing a countdown till Steelers kickoff. I'm behind a day. I was on the road all of yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to post. But we're now 53 days away, so I'll have something up for that. I'll have something for this episode as well. And last but not least, don't forget to check out our new website, which is the URL is strongerthansteelnfl.blogspot.com. Check us out there. That's our main hub for all of our information, all of our social media sites, all of our episodes, and any other work we might do. If you want to give us feedback on that, like I said, go ahead and email us so we can make those changes or see what you guys have to say. So thank you very much for joining us today, Austin. It's been a pleasure, and let's go Steelers, okay? We're a week away.
Yes, sir. I can't wait.
All righty, take care, everybody.
Take care.